All right, today, a federal appeals court will hear arguments on whether Donald Trump and his administration can continue deportation fights for suspected migrant gang members living in the U.S. We're going up the court system again.
Yeah, the Trump administration is defiant. They say they have the authority to deport migrants whom they say are national security threats. They are expected to double down on that argument today. This comes as the administration's standoff with federal judge James Boasberg escalates. Boasberg calls the president's expanded use of the Alien Enemies Act problematic, and he's also promising to find out whether the administration flouted his order to turn deportation flights to El Salvador back around. Border Czar Tom Homan says the administration will not defy court orders. However, Homan is also taking aim at Boasberg.
No, I don't care what that judges think. As far as this case, we're going to continue to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to continue to deport them from the United States.
Crazy how these people always end up on the side of illegal migrant gang members. How do you always end up on that side?
Are members of the TDA. And TDA has been determined to be terrorist organizations. They are now classified as terrorists, so that plane removed 240 terrorists from the United States.
Due process should be given now, even if it wasn't before. I think it should be too, but I don't like, if you want to look at it from, this is what my perspective is, right? I think that they should always listen to what the court says, but if there's a way that you can use a rule to avoid that, I agree with the premise of getting rid of these people and deporting them. I don't care if they're going to El Salvador. I don't care if they're going to the moon. I just don't want them here. So really, you're right. They do have to follow the due process. But if the due process can be subverted with an old rule, that sounds good to me.
Deportation flights to Venezuela are back on after the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, halted flights earlier this month. Venezuelan officials say a deal with the U.S. had been reached. The Department of Homeland Security says the first flight arrived on Sunday. It had 199 people, including some whom the administration says are suspected gang members. And Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is planning to visit Central America this week. Her visit will kick off on Wednesday with a tour of El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center. A DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, telling Fox News Digital that Noem and the president are sending a clear message for criminal aliens considering entering America illegally. Don't even think about it.
It's another thing, too, is if things aren't going well for them, then they're going to get got. And you're going to have less people coming over and causing problems. I know that you accept that there will be collateral, but there's an amount of innocent immigrants that will get caught up when you draw the line for. But is there a line? Well, whenever you say innocent immigrants, you're talking about people that are illegally here, right? So then the entire premise of them being innocent doesn't exist. I'm not going to play your game with vocabulary because it's inherently deceptive. It's not a game, dude. What the fuck? Random people being deported into a country they aren't from into a supermax prison? Yeah. Don't come here if you're not supposed to be here. Yeah. If you're part of an illegal gang, it could be a lot worse.
I watched all the Sunday shows yesterday, and I was just stunned. They pretty much dedicated the full hours talking about the flights that went over, except for they weren't advocating for the American people who have been victimized.
This is the problem, is that the entire fixation is around trying to drum up empathy for people that are here illegally when other people have been negatively affected by that, and somehow we're not supposed to care. That's it, is people are trying to weaponize the average person's empathy against them in order to make them complicit with allowing a bunch of people to come over and basically, I think, play a long game of adding voters into a different area. That's the reason.
People that are trying to turn to Niagara or MS-13, they talked about the one-off that could maybe should have their cases reviewed. But I was looking at this story. A grandmother was and this guy right here, if you can just throw up his mugshot, he was subject to deportation in 2023 under the Biden administration, but he a grandmother. It was no cause to do this. Obviously, there's never a cause, but it was a random attack, and he was going to get away with it before the Trump administration. And he's not the only one, Rachel. I got like 3 other different cases.
These are the people that these guys are so adamantly defending in chat. This is it. They're trying to bring up oh, this is the due process. For sure. You're not even supposed to be here, and you're charged with... Wow. Wow, what are the odds?
This was in my home state of Texas. Look at these menaces to society. Driving drunk.
Yep.
Committed murder. The kid was like 20-some-year-old.
This is what they're defending, bro. It's sad. You're defending people that grandmas that are traffickers and that are driving around drunk. And oh yeah, I'm sure all three of these guys are innocent actually, and they didn't do it. And it's you know, oh no, that's not it. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, they shouldn't have been here in the first place to even get charged with the possibility of doing it.
The families who are involved in pushing
really
back and suing, they're saying my family member is not in Tren de Aragua. My family member is not MS-13. That tattoo you see,
That's
one of them said, is Real Madrid. It's the soccer team. They're not in a gang. Don't send them to El Salvador. But all of these people could have self-deported. They saw, you know, 100%. They saw what was going to happen. Now listen, if you came here illegally and you were just going to be, you know, an illegal Uber driver, maybe, and you got sent to that prison, I understand this is a big deal. But the point is, you're not supposed to be in the country, and that is the chance that you're taking by being here, especially if you commit a crime.
I think if you want to make people stop coming into a country, punish the ones that come into the country heavily, and then they'll stop coming in. Like, I'll give you an example, and this isn't what, I'm not advocating for this, but I'm just giving you an example. If every single time that you were pulled over for drunk driving, and you took a breathalyzer, and you were over the legal limit, the police officer pulled out their gun, and nobody would drunk drive. The amount of it would go down by 99%. If you want to change behavior, change incentives. It's that simple. Very dangerous form of logic. No, this logic is how our entire justice system is built. So our entire justice system is built around basically the punishment being greater than the reward, or the risk of punishment being greater than the reward that you get from the crime. And the instances in the cases where it's not, like for example, a lot of like corporate policy and corporate fines, those are considered to be basically unfair. It's like I think it was in like Final Fantasy. They said that, you know, if the only punishment is a fine, then it's simply a crime against the poor. It's a crime that's only for poor people. The principles are the same. Yeah, of course, I'm not advocating for people, but at the same time, my point is that the worse a punishment is, the higher the probability is that people won't do that action. Every type of violent punishment's already been tested to control criminality, and it didn't work. Okay. Let's talk about a theoretical. There's something, if you are stealing from a store, and the fine for stealing from a store is changed from $100 to $1,000, do you think that would reduce the amount of people stealing from the store? How does it take you more than 3 seconds to figure this out? Well, okay. Anyway, so I just want you guys to see, again, the moment that these people get confronted with any sort of even slight logic, they immediately roach out and fall apart. It's, again, and it's very simple to understand.
Do you want to ask how they got here to begin with? Do you want to ask how they infiltrated these cities, the damage they have done? Have you thought about the balance of it? And if someone's caught up there that shouldn't be, there's an interesting inquiry you could have there. If there's a way to do this, because we need to send more people to El Salvador. I don't know about you, Rachel. I love your context more than mine. But I worry about once they get to Venezuela, if they're going to come right back. And when they go to El Salvador, I know they're not, because they cleaned up their entire country by jailing all their gangsters. So I look forward to seeing what Kristi Noem sees when she gets there. But I do think that Tom Homan was questioned constantly about this. They want Trump to say, I'm defying the courts. They want Tom Homan to say, I'm defying the courts. They're waiting for a Trump official so they can say, all hell is broken loose, a democracy is breaking down, but it doesn't happen. They're going to go up the ladder all the way through.
So is what the judge asking, that in order to send them to El Salvador, you have to have proof that they were in a gang, or is breaking the law and entering our country that's not enough?
But the president is saying under the act that you don't have to show, you don't have to do this due process. So you have a constitutional right that is actually, they are afforded to illegals in this country. We should revisit that. But then you have a competing act that is saying, hey, if someone is a part of a foreign terrorist organization, that you don't have to give them due process and they can be deported. Now, the agents that I talked to,
they have to prove that they were actually
part of the group.
Or MS-13. Yeah. Or
exactly. And so what the agents are saying is, because you hear all these activists keep talking about the tattoos. We're not just talking about the tattoos. That's just one of the elements. We sat on their house, and part of the reason why we don't want to reveal some of this information is because some of the people that got the information are undercover.
That's also a good point. Yeah. It's like a lot of these people that they're finding, they're not going to just go out and explain exactly what their process and methodology was for finding them, is because then the people that are also here can reverse engineer that.
But I also think it's not practical to think that we can do due process on 8 million people.
No.
There's 22 million people here, and minimum illegal already just in the last 3 administrations. And there's some people that got through with Trump's administration. If we're going to give every these guys a day in court and a lawyer, we can't do it. They don't deserve it. Our system doesn't need to be double burdened. And I would just love to see the same curiosity, anger, outrage about the millions that came here at our border. You found the NGOs.
Yeah.
You couldn't get into the building.
So true.
But they were sent into Westchester, small towns into Pennsylvania, and they're unloaded, and we don't know anything about them.
Why do these people want the violent criminals to stay? Because they've been brainwashed into hating their country. That's the reason why. All you have to do is go on Twitter and see what people are saying. That's 100% what it is.
I don't care what that judges think. As far as this case, we're going to continue to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to continue to deport them from the United States. The Alien Enemies Act was actually a federal law. It's a statute enacted by Congress and signed by a president. Now, that's under litigation. But put that aside, we still have Title VIII authority to remove illegal aliens from the United States.
Do they have any due process at all?
Look, due process. Where's Lake and Ronnie's due process?
Who's going to be so brainwashed to hating their own country? The reason why, and this is also another big issue, is that I think a lot of really dumb people buy into stuff like this. And the reason why they buy into it is that they don't understand any secondary effects that happen when a person like that comes into the country. They don't understand, like, for example, like the kind of like economy that it creates for identity theft. They don't understand the economy that it creates for other forms of theft and stealing and breaking the law. And now it's like, okay, well, now you have companies that are paying them under the table, and this affects other companies. No logic is motion. Yeah, you have to think more than one step ahead, because like a lot of these problems, they create a cascade domino effect to a lot of other things on top of that. I don't understand how due process applies to illegals. There should be no due process, just deportation. I don't know. I think that like whenever you're saying due process, there is a different process for different people for different reasons, right? Like due process for one person is going to be different than another person because of the nature of the crime, right? So like, for example, like giving somebody death penalty is a much higher level of due process than arresting them and putting them in jail overnight for being drunk, right? There's like much more legal proceedings and legal information.
Greg, it looks like first off, we're moving to a different court on the freezing of the flights, but we're still in the lower court with the judge who wants to know more details about why those flights took off on last Saturday.
Yeah.
So can you update us from how you see this going?
Well, the district court judge, Brian, his name is Boasberg, he set a court hearing for tomorrow, but the higher appellate court has a hearing today to decide whether to toss out the judge's temporary restraining order on these deportations. So for now, the appellate court has jurisdiction, but it really depends on what they do today. What's so troubling, I think, about Boasberg's restraining order is that he is defying the Supreme Court, which reviewed Harry Truman's use of the Alien Enemies Act after World War II ended. And the High Court said that not only is the act constitutional under the law of the land, it is not subject to judicial review by any judge. So when a president invokes it, no judge, no court can ever intervene, not even the Supreme Court, because Congress gave the president the exclusive power that is purely political to make decisions on national security and foreign policy. Well, Boasberg is duty-bound, Brian, as a lower court judge to follow the ruling of the highest court, the Supreme Court, and butt out. And yet, he is brazenly ignoring the Supreme Court precedent.
I think this is also the issue is that, like, and I'm also probably included in this like to an extent. Like, it seems to me like there's a problem when like one judge can end up telling the entire country and the federal government that they can't deport people that are illegal immigrants. Like, that seems like a very bad problem to have. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, obviously, that could still be the way it has to be, but it sure doesn't seem logical. If there's no due process, they may come for you next. What if you were swept up in an ICE sweep? You'd want a process to explain that you don't belong there. Yeah, guys, what if I randomly get arrested by ICE for being an illegal immigrant, gang member, and I get sent to El Salvador? Yeah, like, what if that happened to you? Oh my God. This is a person that's like typed this over and over and over. You are going to get banned for spamming, but I will respond to this just for a minute. There is literally not a single rule or policy in the entire government that has not had collateral damage. If your argument is that because certain policies can have collateral damage, then we shouldn't have them, you would be arguing to get rid of all prisons. I find it to be very funny that these are the kinds of people that constantly go and always find themselves arguing against the country and in favor of terrorists, illegal immigrants, gang members, and drug dealers. It always feels very interesting to me that it seems to be that thing every single time. What are the odds? Notice how the right haven't doxed the judge or burned his car to the ground for this? Funny that? Yeah, it's really interesting. Also, by the way, I'm sure that there are going to be some negative circumstances and some things that go wrong on purpose. Or sorry, not on purpose, but mistakes happen, right? Mistakes happen for everything. But the thing is that if you're afraid of making a mistake, you won't do anything. Every single law has people that get charged unfairly for it. Every single prison has people that are there that shouldn't be there. There's no logic that like, okay, well, if you do something and, if one person is negatively affected by this, we should throw the entire thing out. Well, okay, then we wouldn't have any laws. I mean, it displaced a bunch of kids, so it's not a far stretch to think they can mess this up too in some case. I mean, I would say that the people that displaced their kids were the ones that brought them over here to the country. If you're bringing your kids over to another country illegally, I think that really the problem lies with the parent or the person that's trafficking them over. I mean, that's what I would say. Those are the people who are in the wrong. And again, it's like, you're being blamed for addressing the problem, but the people that caused it are somehow not to blame. No, if they caused this problem.